Hello and welcome to Coach's Decision, a weekly talk show that covers sports topics from the Bay Area and beyond. My name is Thomas Todd. I am sitting in the lovely KSEO studios. I'm joined on the phone by my man. I love Fallout Boy, but he loves Fallout 4. Daniel Zarchi, how you doing, buddy? And I don't have Danny. I think I'm going to have to fix him on the mic over here. On today's show, we are going to talk about the NCAA championship game, all of the NFL playoffs, including the possible engagement of Aaron Rodgers to Olivia Munn. We're going to get Danny on the phone in just 1 second. As soon as I can get my headset set, we're also going to talk about some baseball real quick. Drew Storen has been traded to the Blue Jays, a couple of signings, including D. Gordon with the Marlins. Danny, do we have you? We do not. Okay. I did watch that NCAA championship game on Monday night. A much higher scoring game than I thought. I thought Alabama's defense was going to be the prevailer in that one, but it just wasn't the case. Deshaun Watson was fantastic. He had 4 touchdowns. He moved the ball all over the field, rushing and throwing the ball. Their defense was better than I thought Clemson's was, but it really was the trickery and the special teams of Alabama, and that really comes down to coaching. I mean, that onside kick was absolutely fantastic and a great idea. And the kickoff return, also excellent from Alabama. That's just a spectacular play for a championship team. All right, we're still trying to get Daniel Zarchi on the phone. Danny, can you hear me, buddy? Nope, still no luck there. We'll have Chris Spencer and Tory behind the glass figuring stuff out for us. What was really interesting about the Alabama-Clemson game was Las Vegas, because going into this game, Alabama was favored by 7, which is really important because they had a 12-point lead in the final minute of the game. Clemson drove down the field like a hot knife through butter and punched in a late score. I read this actually cost gamblers $10 million, a $10 million swing in Vegas in favor of the casinos, because most people tend to bet on the favorite. Vegas makes the most money when the favorites wins, but don't cover. So it looks like our line isn't working tonight. We're going to have to get some extra special attention from our mechanics and engineers here. Why don't we go ahead and just bring Victoria Feeney on the show, Producer Tory, to talk with me instead of Mr. Zarchi. I think what happened was the show before us, the Our Local Radio show with Neil Perlberg, had so many calls because he did relationships that they actually busted the phone line. So good job by Neil Perlberg. Keep getting those listeners and keep getting those checks. Tori, how are you doing?
A little winded. Just ran through the studio.
I know. Isn't it tough? I've had to bolt from place to place in the studio, and you really can't catch your breath if you're expected to talk for any length of time. I ain't mad at you, Daniel Zarchi. It's not your fault. I'm not mad at you, phone lines, even though it's probably your fault. You probably caught none of this NCAA game. You've been focusing on the NFL so you can beat us in the pick pool.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinions on college football or Las Vegas or things you like to do in Las Vegas?
I don't really gamble, so I'm really bad when it comes to doing anything regarding picks and Vegas odds because I barely understand them at this point.
I'm incredulous.
It's riveting.
I'm incredulous because you've been whooping us basically at any kind of fantasy. You won our fantasy league, your first time ever playing fantasy. You're beating us all in the pick pool. Danny and I are slogging along under 50%. You're hovering right around 50. So however you're doing it, we're going to take you to Vegas on our next trip and figure that one out.
Daddy, is that you?
Oh my God. That's not cool. That's not cool. I'm no one's father to my knowledge at this point in my life. Blair Walsh was the big story over the weekend, and that's bad. When a kicker is the story of a playoff weekend, that usually means something's gone horrifically wrong. And usually when the Minnesota Vikings are involved, something has gone horrifically wrong. They have in their history 4 Super Bowl losses. They haven't been to the Super Bowl in Lord knows how long, I think since the 70s. And now, in 1998, kick goes wide right or wide left. I think it was wide left for Gary Anderson. Do not make the Super Bowl in that year. Now they have a home playoff game. They're about to beat a red-hot Seattle team. 27-yard field goal goes wide left. How much sympathy do you have for Blair Walsh?
I feel bad for him. I mean, bad kicks happen, but did you know that first grade students wrote him letters encouraging him to keep his head up and not get down after missing the kick?
First of all, that's adorable. Second of all, these are first graders. That means they're, 5 or 6?
Mm-hmm.
They don't know the heartbreak of being a Vikings fan. They haven't seen them, win a Super Bowl or anything, but there are people in their 70s and 80s who haven't seen them go to the Super Bowl in half their lifetime, never mind win any of them. So I understand the sympathy coming from the innocent children of the world, but you got to feel for the actual adults in the Twin Cities.
Who have continued to be let down in horrible different ways.
I mean, one of the most fun games I get to play is with our mutual friend Andrew, who we will sit down and we will try to name as many Cleveland Browns and Minnesota Vikings quarterbacks as we can, because it's just been a constant carousel the last 20 years of trying to figure out if they can get anyone installed in that position. And they finally have, Bridgewater looks like the best quarterback prospect they've had in a really long time. And they have Adrian Peterson, who's already one of the 5 or 7 best running backs in the history of the NFL, just looking at his numbers and his production into his 30s. So this is their time. I mean, they don't have many more years with Peterson. And, how often do you get to host a home playoff game because you beat the Packers? They never beat the Packers in Lambeau. They finally did that, got a home playoff game, and then just absolutely blew it. And I'm not going to say blew it because Blair Walsh missed that kick. I'm going to say blew it because they didn't score a touchdown in that game. And when you have a home playoff game, I don't care if it's negative 75 degrees, you have to score a touchdown.
Oh, yeah, and Seattle's kicker was like practicing kicks with balls in a walk-in freezer to get used to the cold weather because he was so afraid of it being that cold in Minnesota.
I wish they had this in like golf. Like you have Jason Day or Jordan Spieth in a walk-in freezer hitting golf balls to try to replicate how to get to the 17th green in the icy storm. I think golf would be a much more entertaining sport.
It would make the Masters be less sleepy, I guess.
Oh my goodness.
The Masters is the best nap of the year.
They are literally whispering at you, trying to get you to doze off. I think it's a trick.
It's a better nap than NPR.
I'm starting to think that there are subliminal messages in the commercials that only get to you if you are sleeping, and the Masters telecast is trying to get you to fall asleep, so there can be a whole they live type conspiracy.
Is this going to be one of those Space Jam is the Matrix conspiracy theories again?
That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just the Wachowskis ripping off another franchise's plot. And, they've never been plot-driven themselves, so, they win for the visual effects. But, that was unfair.
Deep down, it's still Space Jam.
If anybody wants to talk Space Jam, send me an email, tt@ksco.com. I will listen to any and all of your Space Jam rantings and ravings. I'll also answer any trivia questions you might have. I love bantering about Space Jam. Okay, let's keep talking about the NFL playoffs because I want to know, how did we do? I think I went 2-2 for the picks.
Me and you went 2-2, and Danny went 3-1. He can't even be here to gloat, but he jumped up 3% in win percentage.
He's somewhere out there right now, fist bumping himself or doing one of the, what's his bucket at the end of the Breakfast Club? Judd Nelson's character.
Oh, the fist to the sky.
He's doing that. It's a bit premature, and Danny tends to get a little too excited about his own success, but it is justified because he did go 3-1. The game I was certain about, the one of the 4, I was like, I know I got this game in the bag, was Green Bay against Washington. The Jabs hadn't beat anyone all year. Green Bay was not playing their best football down the stretch. I get that. But they have Aaron Rodgers. They have Eddie Lacy, who's a competent running back. And they beat a couple of teams throughout the season. They'd done stuff. They came in with a resume and a game plan. And I just feel like Washington had a very overrated quarterback who'd gotten a lot of good yards and completion percentage against some really crappy teams.
It's true. But it would have been interesting to see a playoffs that didn't have the Steelers or the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, those are the 2 signature franchises of the last 20 or so years. You can't really keep them down. The Steelers have had trouble making the playoffs, and when they do, winning a playoff game. It was quite a few seasons, I think 5 years since last weekend that the Steelers actually won a playoff game. So it was actually nice to see them get off the schneid, but it had to be, of course, at the hands of the Cincinnati Bengals, who are now, I believe, 0 for their last 6. Made the playoffs 6 straight seasons and haven't won. Marvin Lewis will keep his job. The team seems pleased that they are competitive every season. They're maybe giving him an excuse that, hey, your guy Andy Dalton was out. Your team looks so much better with Dalton in the pocket, protected by that offensive line than A.J. McCarron did. So they gave him another year, and I actually kind of agree with that because the Bengals, as I grew up, were the sorriest franchise.
Yeah.
The Saints and the Bengals were terrible. And so just going 0 for 6, that's an improvement. That's nothing to get fired over.
Well, and someone was saying Andy Dalton's kind of been the heart of the team and like the glue that keeps them all together, which is why the game got as nasty as it did.
Yeah, but he's not in charge of keeping Vontaze Burfict and Adam Jones within themselves. I mean,
but nobody's perfect.
Oh, my goodness.
I was holding on to that one.
Yeah, of course you were. Burfict gets the square. That was a terrible showing by that defense and by that team. You have a reputation that the Bengals do is, like the Cowboys, kind of harboring these problematic players and keep trying to keep them out of trouble, but it does flare up every once in a while, and it flared up at the wrong moment. You got 2 15-yard penalties. I do agree with the Bengals that Joey Porter, the coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, should have been flagged for using Antonio Brown's injury to go on the field and use that to be aggressive at Bengals players. But if you're Pac-Man Jones, don't go near the referees. Don't touch a referee. Don't look at a referee. Don't smile at a referee. Don't do anything to a referee. Just let them be the referees.
It's true. It's true. And that game got so nasty that I would have been avoiding refs and avoiding as much confrontation as possible.
Yeah, and the refs really lost control, and it's easy to do in those AFC North games. The Ravens play with such an intensity against the Steelers and vice versa, and the Bengals have gotten in on the act. The Cleveland Browns, they don't play with any intensity because of the Cleveland Browns, but those other 3 teams are always competitive. The Ravens weren't so much this year, but they are always attacking each other verbally, physically, and it's always a fight.
It is. I think I spent probably the majority of my early 20s watching the Ravens just be terrifying.
Yeah, they were absolutely terrifying on both sides of the ball. They always had big physical players. Tony Siragusa on defense was, he seems like a nice guy now, but on the field, he's just a big hunk of metal ready to ram himself and another defensive lineman down your throat. So I really appreciate that football, but it does get taken too far when guys are getting leveled for no reason. The ball was uncatchable and gone, and Burfict just levels Antonio Brown.
Oh, yeah, and Antonio Brown, he's still under concussion protocol. He probably won't be playing this weekend.
Well, and they called him a faker.
Yeah.
Adam Jones said, he winked at me. What? He didn't wink at you.
He was out cold. How's he going to wink? That was probably him going unconscious.
He winked with both eyes as he snoozed on the field. Jones did come back and say if Brown doesn't play this weekend, and Jones expects Brown to play this weekend against Denver, if he does play this weekend, then he will apologize for saying that about Antonio Brown. But I think he's going to be found to be in the wrong. I don't think Brown's going to play this weekend. We'll get to that game eventually. We mentioned Aaron Rodgers jabbing the jabs. Did you see what now may be an erroneous report that Olivia Munn and Aaron Rodgers got engaged?
Yeah, it was like they got engaged. We might have jumped the gun. They might not have got engaged.
She tweeted at her mom that it wasn't true.
Yeah.
That's got to be one disappointed mom. Aaron Rodgers is looking, or she's looking at Aaron Rodgers going, those eyelashes on my grandbaby? Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and you'd think that if it had been a true thing, her mom would have found out from Olivia Munn, not from the internet.
Right. Well, the internet's tough because they find things out before sometimes even you find things out. People find out they're fired from the internet. People find out they're suspended from the internet.
The paparazzi literally took photos of Hillary Duff as she was getting engaged.
So, some people let you know you have a baby via the internet. Sometimes the media picks that up, They know things before you do. That's their job. They make hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to find out the little tidbits of information that basically ruin your life when they're leaked to the public. So.
Well, and the EMTs or the police department, someone leaked the medical information for Chandler Jones and his emergency call this weekend.
Right, I just saw this.
They may have been violating HIPAA in the process because they released his medical information without any consent.
What was the other story recently where it looked like HIPAA was violated because we saw someone's medical charts?
JPP.
Oh, it was Jason Pierre-Paul. That's right. Absolutely. When he blew off half his hand.
Well, because people were posting pictures of this is his hand or these are his x-rays. And one, they weren't his, but they were other patients with similar things. So they weren't just violating his privacy. They were also releasing other patients' information trying to make it look like it was his.
It's just tough when you have a camera in your pocket. It's like if you carried around a miniature version of the most beautiful man or most beautiful woman in the world, eventually you'd find a quiet moment and you'd want to just ruin your marriage. Like, you can't have that much temptation around you at all times. Like, having the internet and having a camera phone and wanting to document every part of your life and everyone else's life, it's just so tempting because it's so easy and it feels so good.
And gossip makes you feel like less of a terrible person if it's not someone you're directly associated with. If it's just some guy that comes into the ER that happens to be famous, why not drop the information for a check?
There was a Cinnabon, not a Cinnabon, but a cinnamon roll out on the desk in lovely KSCO studios. And I didn't want to eat it, but I knew if I walked by it more than twice, I was going to eat it. It's just human.
There's one out there right now.
No, that's a Bear Claw. That's got almonds on it.
Oh, and you can't. Yeah, that would kill you.
I'd be on the floor. You'd have to contact HIPAA to get me to a hospital.
Local celebrity Thomas Todd.
Local celebrity death by Bear Claw. Could be kind of like The Revenant. It'd be like my version of The Revenant. Leo DiCaprio mauled by a bear. Thomas Todd taken down by a bear claw.
The things Leonardo DiCaprio will do for an Oscar.
Oh my goodness. Did you see that yet?
No, I haven't. I'm afraid.
I went and saw that with our friend Jacob May, and it is a terrorizing picture. It throws all of your senses into disarray and just makes you horrifically cold and terrified and uncomfortable the entire time.
I can't even watch Breaking Bad without getting anxious. I can't survive The Revenant.
That's Breaking Bad's not so bad. That's not a hard watch, I didn't think. No.
I'm an anxious person.
Yeah, but then everything is going to make you anxious because there's always conflict. That's what drives plot.
It's true. It's true.
Okay, I think we have more games to do. What else did we talk about? We did Steelers-Bengals. We did
the blowout
Seattle.
that was Chiefs and Houston.
Oh, my goodness. That was the other one I felt great about. That was my 2-0. I blew the other two games. The other two teams won but didn't cover. So I feel kind of okay. I kind of feel like I almost went 4-0. But Kansas City, 11 games in a row after starting 1-5. I don't know how they're doing this.
They are doing something. I don't know what. Maybe there was a goat sacrificed. I'm not sure, but it worked.
A goat named Jamal Charles, who was injured midway through the season, and somehow the Chiefs just got better with guys like Sharkandrick West and Spencer Ware, I think is the other guy. I don't know who these guys are. You draft them in fantasy after, Charles goes down, but you don't know who these guys are. You don't know anything about their background or what 40 times they ran at the combine. But apparently it really opened up the Chiefs' offense. And, getting to play Brian Hoyer, who various sports blogs have said, went full Delhomme, threw 4 picks and a fumble for 5 turnovers in that game.
Yeah.
And Kansas City's defense is pretty good. I guess we'll start to get into actual NFL picks and NFL talk here. I think they struggle against the Patriots.
Yeah.
But the money's going on the Chiefs. There's a lot of action, both by sports writers and media members, and then, the sports betting public going on the Chiefs right now.
Macklin is probably out. Julian Edelman is back. Gronk is practicing, so I don't see it being an easy game for the Chiefs.
They have had Gronk running crap routes for 5 or 6 weeks. They've had him running decoy routes, and until the last part of a fourth quarter, finally getting him involved to try and win games. They've basically just been shielding him, waiting for this playoff run because they went 10-0, knew they were going to make the playoffs. I think they were one of the first 2 or 3 teams to qualify. They didn't secure the home field that they probably wanted to, but they kind of punted on that. But I agree with you. The guys are coming back. Chandler Jones, who knows?
He was practicing today.
Okay. You never know.
He had an allergic reaction.
I know the feeling. Did he eat a bear claw?
Apparently he had a bad reaction to synthetic marijuana. So he went to the hospital. They flushed his system or something. I don't know, but he was back and practicing today.
Wait, but it said illegal substance. Is synthetic marijuana a legal substance?
Probably. I don't know.
Is it okay for NFL players to smoke synthetic marijuana?
I'm not sure.
Isn't this what made that defensive lineman in the SEC jump out his window? You missed that story?
I must have.
Oh, yeah. One of the linemen, I can't remember, Missouri or one of those teams, was in his hotel room and they were smoking that stuff, and he was deranged and leapt out of the hotel room window and nearly killed himself. So I need to learn more about synthetic marijuana. I was still learning about regular marijuana now that it's going to be legalized, and I went to UC Santa Cruz. But so that's interesting for the Pats. But I think they win going away in this game. What you really have to look at is quarterback plus coach. Bill Belichick over Andy Reid any day of the week, twice on Sunday, and that's a wonderful football expression. But also Tom Brady over Alex Smith. I know he's not 2007 Tom Brady, but when is there a year associated with Alex Smith? When was his peak? I mean, this is probably the best he's ever played and the best he ever will play, and he's still not at the level of a Rodgers or a Brady, or he's probably right at the level of Peyton Manning right now.
Which, oh, poor Peyton.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that too, but make your pick. You're going to take the Pats -5?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm taking.
It just doesn't look good for the Chiefs.
I'm taking Pats -5, and as Danny always says, they can't make this line high enough, so I'm going to give him Pats -5, unless he says otherwise when we do finally get to speak with the man. Our next game we will talk about is Arizona giving 7 to Green Bay. Green Bay finally looked like the team we wanted them to be all season. We were pretending that they were. They finally looked like that, but it was against the NFC East champion, which is, like playing a directional school in college sports. It's like playing, Eastern Kentucky in basketball or whatnot. So I'm not completely sold on the Packers because the Jabs were a joke. Cardinals have been consistent and actually are the Super Bowl favorites right now in Las Vegas. I'm going to root for Rodgers, but I'm going to go and pick the Cards -7.
I'm taking the Cardinals, too. I mean, the Packers are finally looking better, but the Cardinals are just a better team.
Okay, we're going to see if we can get Danny on the phone now. Danny, are you there, buddy?
Hello.
Hey, Danny, what's up, my man?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, my goodness, so good to have you. Tori was doing a fantastic job, but was starting to get in over her head. I was going to start talking about baseball in a minute.
Oh, I would have been ruined the moment baseball came up.
And she was going to freak out. So we're going to get you caught up. Give me your Patriots-Chiefs pick.
I'm going Chiefs.
You're going with the Chiefs?
What?
I'm taking a total gut call here, but I think the Chiefs match up pretty well against the Patriots, and they made this line high enough.
Wow, yeah. Were you hearing the show at all as we were talking? Okay, good. Just making sure. And then we're just now talking about Arizona against Green Bay. I took Arizona. I think Victoria did as well. Where do you land on this game?
I am taking Green Bay.
Okay. Reasoning?
I was out on the Packers 1 week too early. I think that they're going to keep it rolling. I think they figured something out. And 7's a lot of points.
So do you think it's an advantage for a team like Green Bay, who kind of struggled down the stretch, to get right, maybe not get a first-round bye, not play a home game, to maybe get right against an inferior opponent? So you're saying kind of the momentum theory?
I don't know. I don't really necessarily believe in momentum. I think that there's something wrong with that team, and they sort of figured something out against a weak jabroni secondary. But the Cardinals, I mean, there were a few throws in the beginning of that game. It looked like Green Bay was going to lose again. James Jones got open a couple times, and Rodgers just missed him. Things like that. But I think they got into I think it's less about momentum and more just kind of getting into a rhythm. As silly as it is, I think those are different things.
Okay, yeah, I can see the rhythm theory being different from the momentum theory, but not enough that I'm going to give you credit and switch my pick and take the Packers. I'm still going to stick with Arizona.
Rodgers got sacked 8 times the last time he played the Cardinals.
Yeah, they got whooped by 30. 30.
What's Bakhtiari's status?
See, if you have to ask, that's a problem. If that's what you're worried about, if you're worried about one of their offensive linemen, that's an issue. I mean, he got sacked in the end zone on one of the first plays in the game against Washington for a safety. So, I'm not really digging what they're putting down right now. We'll move on. Another game on Sunday, Seattle against Carolina. Carolina, their first playoff action this year. They're laying 3. Tori, what do you think about this game?
Is Seattle good? Yes. Are the Panthers better? Absolutely.
You think so? You trust the Cam Newton 15-1. You believe
Jonathan
it all?
Stewart is back. Ted Ginn. Every time I say it, I want to say Ginn Jr.
Of all the Ginn joints in the world.
He's back too, so it's like all the people that they were resting and protecting the last few games for the Panthers are coming back. Panthers are just better.
Danny?
I'm drinking the Ginn and juice.
Laid back.
I'm taking Panthers -3. I mean, I just don't understand why people think the Seahawks are like a high-powered team. They've had a few close wins, they've had a few bad losses, and then some of the blowouts are really against very poor teams, or like the Cardinals, when the Cardinals had already locked up a first-round bye. So I have yet to see something that's particularly impressive about the Seahawks aside from, Russell Wilson saving that game single-handedly. And he might do that 30 times on Sunday, but I think more likely the Panthers are just a much better team.
See, I'm not as worried as what we saw about what we saw on the field against Minnesota. The sub-zero temperature, or the hovering around zero temperature, made that game really strange. And they did score the game's only touchdown, which I appreciate because, like I said to Tory earlier on the show, I was really disappointed in Minnesota. You have to score a touchdown in your home playoff game. A touchdown, and you win that game. So I'm more looking at Seattle's collective resume. They played a really tough schedule. They had some issues against some teams they probably shouldn't have had some issues. But Russell Wilson's been playing so fantastic. I'm going absolutely with the Seahawks right now. This is how Cam Newton and the Panthers' miracle run ends. 15-1 is not a good place to be sitting historically. It just isn't. The Pats at 16-0 made their run to the Super Bowl, but the last 15-1 team that I remember was the Minnesota Vikings, and they're the ones who booted the ball wide to the left, Gary Anderson, to lose that game.
And we should give the Seahawks credit for that, is what you're saying.
No, we absolutely shouldn't. I'm just saying 15-1 is a very precarious place to be. And
who cares? Who cares what 15-1 teams have done historically? I mean, there's absolutely no sphere in which that's relevant.
It's relevant because they're going to lose this weekend, and the 15-1 team is going to have another loss, and it's going to be a historic trend by the time I'm done with it.
Okay, but why? What about history makes you believe that there's any sort of predictive value based on what past 15-1 teams have done?
And nothing. There is nothing, but I get this feeling that the Panthers are not a Super Bowl team. I just don't get the feeling that this is a team that makes a run, and I think they fall to Seattle's coaching experience and their experience with Russell Wilson on the field, making that key play. What was the key play in the game against Minnesota?
It was the booted snap toss to Tyler Lockett.
Now, does Cam Newton make that play? Maybe,
sure.
But we know Russell Wilson makes that play. We know he does because he does it every single time.
Or maybe Cam Newton makes some other play. Maybe Cam Newton, runs through 17 Falcons and gets 7 yards. Maybe Cam Newton does all these other things. Like this is the definition of what am I trying to say? Recency bias and all those things where you say that, Russell Wilson has looked good recently. Well, I mean, are we forgetting about Cam Newton looking really good recently? Cam Newton is incredibly good. And when you look at the supporting staff around them, I think that the Panthers have an all-around better team.
I'm not sure that in a playoff game you can have Ted Ginn Jr. as your best wide receiver and beat a decent team to a pretty good team like Seattle, and that's where I stand.
You think Doug Baldwin is actually a good player, or is he just in the right place at the right time?
I mean, I think the sum total of Seattle's offensive weapons definitely outdoes what the Panthers bring on a week-to-week basis. That's just my thought. They look more like a playoff team, more like a Super Bowl team than Carolina does right now. And we don't have to argue about that anymore because we have one more game to discuss. And Danny, I'll let you start. Denver giving 7 to Pittsburgh.
I'm going to let them give the 7. I'm taking the Broncos -7. The Bengals made a huge mistake when they didn't really change their defensive scheme against Ben after after his arm got ripped off, because they still played him like 10 yards back, where even though it was pretty obvious he couldn't throw more than like 6 or 7 yards.
Is he the Black Knight from Monty Python?
He basically is. I mean, it was just a flesh wound.
They ripped his arm off.
It's a Horatio line. I don't remember. Anybody could have seen that he was not going to throw where the defenders were standing, but they did it anyway. And so I think the Broncos are not going to make that mistake. They're going to adapt either to a lame Big Ben or against a Landry Jones who's going to throw 17 interceptions. And
17.
I think they're going to eat them up. Antonio Brown he can't throw the ball and catch the ball, and if there's no one. If the Broncos know that the only thing the Steelers are going to do are screen passes and dump-offs, then the Broncos can actually defend against that.
Well, in 17, I think that's the number of interceptions Peyton Manning has thrown this year without even playing a full season. Speaking of interceptions, I too am going to take Denver. So many question marks for the Steelers. Antonio Brown, Big Ben. That's your 1-2 punch right there. So I'm not really sold on them being able to get anything going. They're making Peyton Manning look like a healthy, productive quarterback at this point, and that's pretty terrible. So I'm going to take the better defense, take the home team, and take the healthier team. Tory.
Big Ben hasn't thrown a football since Saturday.
He mentioned that, and I don't know how big of a deal that is. I don't know how often you have to throw a football.
They finally looked at everything, and he has a bunch of torn muscles and ligature in his rotator cuff.
And his AC joint sprained, which I think I did in bed the other night, but I'm not as, good at staying in the game as,
You're not
as
very
Ben
limber.
Roethlisberger. I'm not limber. I'm very rigid. Inflexible. What's a good word for that?
Inflexible works.
Stiff. I am a stiff. I'm a working stiff. Thank you, Danny. So we're all taking the Broncos there. Okay, let's recap. Where are we at in the standings? What does Danny have to do to beat you? Because we're doing double points still.
Just keep making good picks.
Well, yeah, obviously, but can he overcome you? So there's 7 games left.
7 games
I
left.
picked up 2 points this week, right?
You picked up 2 points this week. I held steady with Tory, and I'm trailing both of you guys now. Joaquin already won because he retired on top like Barry Sanders.
Basically, Danny just needs to keep doing 3-1, and I just need to keep doing crappy, and he'll eventually pass me.
Tori and I are tied for wins, but she has 6 fewer losses.
5.
And
Six.
6 fewer losses and 1 more tie. So.
Interesting. I might have to play sleeper cell here and come from behind to win this one. A little tortoise and hare action. All right, well, Tori, thank you. We're going to have you back on in a few minutes for Tori topics. But right now, Danny and I have some best friend stuff to discuss.
Some baseball.
We're going to talk about some baseball. But first, Danny, you're a Niners fan. I am not, despite my Bay Area ties. I've been looking at what they're going to do in the offseason, maybe not from a free agent standpoint because it's too early, but they have the number 7 overall pick. Are you going to get into the draft now that this is a high pick? I know you're not the biggest NFL draft fan, but actually having a top 10 pick, shouldn't you be like super deep diving?
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years I've gotten interested in the first round, but kind of stopped caring after that.
Well, because by the time your team is up, it's like, oh, they took a guy from South Florida. I watched a bunch of South Florida games, right?
They took a tall secondary player and a guy who's hurt. That's weird.
But now you're going to get a quality, or at least what's viewed as a premium player at number 7. So I imagine you're going to be doing your research.
Yeah. So right now it looks like, I mean, obviously the big number 1 target. But who knows if he's going to be there, is Jared Goff. He's Cal's quarterback. He looks like he's going to be a star right away. And he would, the Bay Area connection, the we need a quarterback connection, I mean, that would be perfect if that happens. But because they stupidly lost their last game of the season, thank you, Jimmy T, who knows if he's going to still be there. And there are a lot of teams before the Niners who also need quarterbacks. So,
right. Well, not Tennessee, at least. That's one team you can just skip right on by because they got Mariota.
Yeah, Cleveland, who knows? I mean, the Chargers, Dallas, Jacksonville, and Baltimore all seem like they don't need it, but they don't need a quarterback, especially that early. But Cleveland's the big question mark.
Another thing I looked at was the schedule because the days and weeks and months aren't out yet, but the opponents are out. You guys got, of course, your home and homes against your own division. Then you have games against the AFC West and the NFC East with bonus games against Chicago and New Orleans. This is not a first-place schedule, but it's not the easiest schedule in the world.
No.
What is your analysis of it? You have to enjoy playing the NFC East because all those teams are in such disarray right now. The team that had its stuff together just got blown out in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly interesting. Like the Niners have kind of a troubled past with I don't want to say troubled past, maybe even a rivalry with the Giants, because the Giants knocked them out of the playoffs a few years by trying to concuss our players. And then it always seems like the Giants have played them tough. And this year, the Giants were one of the few teams that the Niners actually, played well for on the road. So that's certainly going to be interesting. I mean, the rest of the teams, they're all in disarray, so that certainly helps. But who knows if the Niners are going to be even in any condition to challenge any of them.
So the 2 cool games on the schedule are Niners-Cowboys and Niners-Raiders. Those jump out for any Bay Area fan who's watched the Niners play the Cowboys through much of the 90s as rivals and even well before that, before we were around. And the Raiders, that crosstown rivalry is there. It's real. The fans are distinct enough to have their own opinions and thoughts on stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we really need people to stop stabbing each other at those things.
Yeah, let's just throw that out there. Hey, guys, quit it.
Yeah, let's cut down on the violence. And, the Raiders fans have this reputation, but it's mostly Niners fans, and that's something that we should all be ashamed of. So, Niners fans, cut that crap out.
Yeah, we like to pretend we're classy because, our team plays in San Francisco, as Giants fans, or used to play in South San Francisco as Niner fans, but it's just not the case. The violence has been equal among both franchises, despite the, like you said, horrible reputation for Raiders fans.
Yeah, so it should be interesting. I mean, I'm hoping the Niners do something good, put it together, but, it's more likely going to be another rebuilding year, and so, playing against a mediocre schedule will help.
Who's going to be your coach?
Well, that's the question. I mean, Hugh Jackson just signed with Cleveland. Apparently they're taking a good long look at Tom Coughlin, who's,
He might die in that time if you take too long of a look. He's old. He's 69. He's about to be 70 years old.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the Niners have never really, or I guess they did once, but they don't tend to hire head coaches who have head coaching experience.
I made a joke earlier they were going to promote Anquan Boldin to head coach this week.
He'd probably be more qualified than whatever random person they find.
He won the Perseverance Award for the team. The team likes him.
Yeah, no, Boldin would be great. I mean, I'd rather he be out there playing wide receiver, but, you don't really hear about player managers these days in the NFL. I think that's what they should do.
Player manager. That'd be fascinating to try to manage a 53-man roster and a full coaching staff while still running and trying to pick up first downs.
Yeah,
let's do a little bit of baseball. You have final thoughts on the Niners?
Oh no, I mean it might be Coughlin, it might be Shanahan. Those guys are interesting. Their names keep coming up, and we'll see.
Oldest people on the planet.
Yeah, I hope it's someone good.
Well, I'll root for you. I won't root for your Niners, but I will root for you to be happy. What jumps off the page for you of baseball transactions this week? I just saw the D. Gordon contract. Haven't really had time to digest it. 5 years, $50 million with Miami. How many years of arbitration does he even have left?
Well, none anymore. But...
Oh no, but how many did he have? Because that's important to keep the number low.
Yeah, I mean, D. Gordon is one of those players who I thought he was kind of overrated on the Dodgers, and then he went to the Marlins, and I thought the Marlins basically got swindled in that trade, and he played really, really well. But his contract knocks out 3 years, so Gordon was going to be arbitration eligible going into this season, and then for 2 more, and then he would have been a free agent in 2019. So it basically buys out 3 years plus 2 years of free agency.
Okay, just gives them some cost certainty at the position and at their leadoff spot, which is always good to have, especially if you can get a guy young and not have to worry about how speed and defense ages at his position.
Yeah, and Don Mattingly and Barry Bonds have said that they think that they can turn Marcell Ozuna into a 30-30 guy.
Well, he's got the pop.
He's definitely got the pop. He's never been that much of a base stealer, but he's always been somebody who's kind of been primed for a breakout and then had a really bad year last year, but he's still got the skills and got the pedigree, and say what you will about Don Mattingly as a coach, as a manager, but he's certainly got a good track record of being a good hitter and helping guys like that.
Does Wei Yi Chen move your needle? Another Marlins transaction?
I don't even know who that is.
Exactly. You don't watch the American League. None of us do because it
Did
has
you just say Marlins? American League?
No. Wei Yi Chen was in the American League. He was on Baltimore.
Yeah. Wei Yin Chen.
Wei Yin Chen. I left off the consonant. See, I don't know anything.
That's an
about
important letter. Wei Yin Chen is underrated. I think Wei Yin Chen. I think he's really good, and he was probably somebody who was, probably should have been valued like Mike Leake last year.
Uh-huh.
He, didn't do a lot of special things, but always put up pretty good numbers, and so I think that's a good pickup.
You said the N was the most important letter. One more deal I want to talk about because I don't understand it is the Nationals' decision to keep Jonathan Papelbon and flip Drew Storen to the Blue Jays.
Well, the question is, what else could they have done? Papelbon, I'm pretty sure, has a no trade clause, and
you know what you do, Danny?
Who would want him anyway?
You cut him. You get him off your team. He choked your best player in your dugout in front of your coaching staff. who then refused to claim seeing it. They had a great team going into last year. Turned out that Bryce Harper was a diamond in the rough because that team turned out to be horribly injured and or alternately terrible. Papelbon comes in. He has a terrible attitude. We know about this from his whole career. And I thought he really, with that one moment and everything that happened afterwards, lampooned and harpooned that clubhouse. And it just went completely sour. Everything on social media, everything from the players going out of the season was terrible. How can you bring this guy back?
Because he's still really good. I mean...
is he better than Drew Storen?
He's probably better than Drew Storen.
A little bit. Would you rather have a quiet Drew Storen or an angry Papelbon?
I mean, if I had to choose, from my couch, I say that Drew Storen's the guy you want. But also, Papelbon has a history of being incredibly good. He's one of the guys who, we think is not good or think is going to regress, and then ends up putting up another season of excellent relief pitching. And Drew Storen pitched poorly last year after he was removed from the closer spot. Who knows if that's mental or what, but he's been good, but he's also had periods where he wasn't very good.
Papelbon choked the league's MVP, the National League's MVP, and he gets to stay on his team.
You know what we need to do? You know what they should have done? Is trade Jonathan Papelbon to the Yankees, and then they can have an elite jerk bullpen.
So then he can choke Alex Rodriguez, whom everybody can't stand.
Then he and Aroldis Chapman can, be the jerks nobody likes, and the Yankees can take advantage of the fact that people already hate them, and, how much more of a PR nightmare could it be?
Well, it's like what the Cowboys did with Greg Hardy. It's like, look, you're America's team, not really anymore. Everybody hates you. Might as well take on this guy, known for hitting women and saying stupid things in the media. So go Yankees, go Cowboys, keep getting those players nobody likes. It only doubles down what we already think about you.
Exactly. So, keeping Papelbon is the good baseball decision. I mean, who knows? Who knows if they could have done something to get rid of him? I bet they would have wanted to get rid of him, but also it really seems like they're blaming that whole situation on Matt Williams and not on Papelbon.
Yeah, we're learning that these guys we grew up watching are not very good managers. Matt Williams, Don Mattingly. It just really hasn't worked out for these guys. Dave Stewart. Matheny seems to be the exception. He seems to be the guy everybody likes. Okay, it's time to move on. Before we do some quick housekeeping, I want to tell you guys about Fanatics.com and FansEdge.com. You can find excellent sports merchandise. Everything under the sun is in their warehouse. They have it. Every team, college, pro, every sport. They have stupid stuff like coffee mugs and license plates that I don't know how or why anybody gets, but they also have stuff that I would definitely buy. T-shirts, sweatshirts, jerseys, sweatpants, with the letters down the side saying Michigan or Go Wolverines or whatever it is you want. Go to those sites, but go through our website, coachesdecisionksco.com, to help us out. We're going to send Fanatics.com and FansEdge.com some traffic, and they're going to send us some lovely Skrilla. So click through our website, coachesdecisionksco.com, and go to FansEdge and Fanatics.com and buy some awesome merchandise. Everything is priced 20, 25%, 30% below market price, so you're going to save yourself some money, and you're going to help out our show. All right, we're going to bring back Producer Tory. Hard at work today on her Tory Topics. Danny, are you ready for some ridiculous stuff?
I was born ready for some ridiculous stuff.
Okay, Tory.
So, speaking of ridiculous things, the odds of winning tonight's Powerball lottery is about 1 in 292 million. What are some things in the NBA that have the same odds? A Redditor actually decided to figure it out.
The Sacramento Kings winning a title? Boogie Cousins not getting ejected at all the rest of the season?
Oh, man, he should have calculated that. Instead, there's a 1 in 292 million chance, same as Powerball, of Kevin Durant hitting his next 187 free throws.
108. That's a lot of free throws.
Yeah. Similarly,
or DeAndre Jordan hitting 10.
That was my next one. DeAndre Jordan making his next 22.
Oh, I love Monte Carlo simulations. That's fun.
Steph Curry hitting his next 23 three-pointers.
That seems more in play. I guess the level of difficulty of a free throw, even if Curry hits 45%, getting that coin flip 23 times in a row, but that's not really 1 in 292 million. Getting a coin flip 23 times in a row?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. I'm no statistician. I'm the history guy.
But my personal favorite, close to a the same odds. Golden State Warriors losing their next 14 games.
Wow. Well, they just lost tonight to Denver. I've been checking the scores. They lost by 2. A furious comeback snuffed out. Do you think they lose 14 in a row, Danny?
I don't think they do. But we could bet on that if you want.
Oh, we could. I'll take the Powerball odds. I'd have to have some Powerballs.
I'll say the line is high enough for that.
Did you guys either of you buy tickets?
No.
People are waiting in line to buy lottery tickets.
Last year, Powerball intentionally changed it so that it's, I think, 60 times harder, or it's like 1 in 6 probability lower, something like that. So it's even harder to win, so that it bumps up the prize winnings. So it's harder to win, and they're making more money.
Well, they get media coverage out of it because it's all anyone's talking about. I'm on Twitter, and everyone's like, "This is what I would do if I won Powerball."
I bought a ticket. That's great.
People are telling me they're trying to win even though they're not buying tickets. They think they're funny or something. I don't know. I haven't bought a lottery ticket I've never bought a lottery ticket.
I don't think I'll ever buy a lottery ticket.
Scratchy lotteries, I am in. I get those in my stocking. It's the one thing I still get from my parents as a man approaching 30. Still get the scratchy lotteries. Danny, you don't play lottery, do you?
No, not at all.
Okay, smart man.
Never even done a scratcher.
Never done a scratcher?
Nope.
Okay, I'm buying you one of those crossword puzzle scratchers. Next story.
God. All right. So Rex and Rob Ryan together with the Bills next year. Please, God, make this the next season of Hard Knocks.
The Walrus and the Wolfman.
Please, next season of the Hard Knocks. It would be amazing.
Danny, do you watch Hard Knocks?
I do.
You do? Okay.
Actually, this preseason, this preseason, I went back and watched like the last 5 seasons of it because I realized how great it was.
You watched 5 seasons? You watched Hard Knocks?
He got sucked in for the Texans.
From seasons that had already ended?
Yeah.
Is it really compelling if the season's already over?
I mean, it's still fun. You know, you still get to see these interesting athletes and doing interesting things. But no.
What was the best one of the 5 that you saw? What team?
I'd say probably this year. I mean, they're crafting their art, and the whole Charles James II thing made it really captivating.
Well, they brought on Vince Gilligan, creator of Breaking Bad, and he really upped the drama and tension this year. There's an episode where the players have to kill a fly in a laboratory. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Breaking Bad lately, and Tory brought it up earlier.
So now he's on it.
Yeah, I get depressed when I watch Breaking Bad. Like, it's less interesting and more just like nothing good is ever going to happen.
Well, why should anything good ever happen? Next story.
Speaking of nothing good ever happening, well, Sixers say they'll retire late Hall of Famer Dolph Shays number 4 at halftime ceremony on January 23rd. Nerlens Noel still wear number 4, but they have also decided not to win until that game so that they can hold a number 4 win in the column for the month of January in his honor.
Who decided not to win? Did you make that joke? Or
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say, intentionally declaring you're not going to win games, that has to be some kind of collusion.
So that they can keep a number 4 in the win column.
Right. Danny, who's Dolph Shays?
I have no idea.
Me neither. Moving on.
Although I did read that the Mariners have retired Ken Griffey Jr.'s number system-wide. So even in the minors, you can't wear number 24.
Yeah, but you don't know Dolph Shays from Dolph Lundgren, Danny.
Dolph Lundgren was an excellent actor.
He was? He probably still is. I doubt he's declined at all. His physique, maybe.
His acting skill is fading, after he turns 30.
Tori?
I've got another question for you. If San Antonio gets a football team, can we rename them the San Antonio Spurns?
Why?
Because they got dumped by their old city.
Oh, I get. I mean,
it's more like they dumped the old city, though.
Yeah, the teams are not getting like St. Louis didn't dump the Rams. The Rams and the Cardinals both dumped St. Louis.
Let me have my spurned joke. Come on.
I get it. Spurned.
The Davis family can't pick a spot in California that they want to play in. I think they should move to Northern California and go play in Humboldt County or something. I don't know what their plan is. But they're definitely not going to get to move. Danny, do you care if there's NFL in L.A.? I don't.
I don't care about anything in L.A.
Oh, wow. We'll find some. What about Dylan Shopchier, our old college buddy?
That's true.
Okay, we do like Dylan. I just, in the way the internet works now, you can be a fan of anyone from anywhere. I don't really see the appeal of having 2 teams in L.A. I know Chargers fans weren't really showing up, but St. Louis is such a great sports city the Rams didn't quite feel the support that they were supposed to be getting, but they also haven't been very good in 12 years. So I don't really know what they were expecting from the fans who support a team like the Cardinals, who are perennially a contender and a very well and smart run franchise. So sorry you can't live up to their expectations, Rams, but you should probably be less Rams.
It's true. My favorite story involving the Rams this year is that Reggie Bush is suing the Rams because of their stupid concrete tarp thing that made him fall and bust up his ankle, or his knee.
Oh, his knee, his calf, something. Yeah, he's not happy about how they constructed the sidelines. Well, they got out of town. Who knows where the insurance bill is going to land? Maybe Inglewood, maybe St. Louis. Tori?
All right. Adorably low-budget, all-star campaign video of Karl Anthony Towns, the big cat, and his cat traveling the world via green screen.
Name of the cat?
Oh, he never mentions it. He just says, me and my cat.
You can't have a cat video and not name the cat.
Sir Pounce-A-Lot. Mittens.
Sir Pounce-A-Lot? This is what you come up with? Chairman Meow's always been my favorite cat name, at least from the pun department. But I remember Chris Bosh had a video out when he was playing in Texas, and he was wearing a cowboy hat standing in front of an RV. And Chris Bosh is perhaps the worst actor I've ever seen. And he still somehow got into the All-Star game, but who knows? Danny, what's the name of your dog again?
The new dog is named Molly.
Molly, that's right. I met Molly. She was a fan of my leg.
Why not?
Yeah, the former
Ruffalo.
dog was named Montana.
Yeah, I remember Montana. Molly's not a very good Bay Area sports name, but you guys tried. All right, well,
she was named Lolly when we got her, so Molly's a better name.
Oh, that's so gross. You didn't want to confuse the thing. All right, well, that's going to be our show. Danny, thank you so much for your perseverance to get on the show today. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We can find you on Twitter @GiantsPod. Any closing thoughts?
I'm still mad that Jimmy T won the last game of the season because I think that